Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, what's the single most important ingredient for a team that doesn't just perform but really truly innovates? It's not about just hiring the smartest people. It's about creating a culture where every single one of us feels safe enough to bring our whole selves to work. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today, how we together are going to build our culture of safety and innovation.
This quote, wow, it isn't just a line from a study. It's a really powerful and frankly heartbreaking thing to hear. It comes from an employee, and it just captures this feeling of exhaustion and frustration that way too many people feel at work. You know that feeling, right? Having a great idea but staying quiet, or seeing a problem and being too afraid to say something? This is exactly what we are committed to changing here, and that change starts right now.
So, how are we going to get there? Well, we've got a roadmap. We'll start by taking a hard look at the problem of silence in the office. Then, we'll nail down what we actually mean by psychological safety. We'll walk through a really powerful 4-stage framework to build it, see it in action with an amazing case study, and then we'll get to the most important part, the role that each of you plays in our culture. Okay, let's just get right into it. If we're going to build something better, we first have to really understand the challenge that so many workplaces, and let's be honest, our whole society are facing right now. You know, this whole push really started with one person making a really sharp observation. An advisor noticed something. Kind of strange. All these vital conversations about race, identity, and social justice were happening everywhere else, on social media, with our friends, in our communities. But the second people walked through the office doors, boom, a curtain of silence just fell. It was like people felt they had to check a part of themselves at the door. And that kind of disconnect, that's a huge red flag. So that advisor's small internal survey, it actually tapped into a much bigger national issue. Just look at these numbers. Studies show that nearly half of employees from underrepresented ethnic groups have experienced racism at work. And it goes beyond that. A huge percentage of employees with disabilities, for instance, don't disclose their condition because they're afraid of discrimination. What this all points to is a systemic problem with feeling safe and supported at work.
So you gotta ask, where is all this silence coming from? Well, it's born from fear, and it's a two-way street. Some people are genuinely afraid of saying the wrong thing and being seen as insensitive. But for others, especially folks from marginalized groups, that fear is way more concrete. It's the fear of being punished for speaking up, of being passed over for that promotion. This fear forces people to protect themselves, to hide essential parts of who they are, whether it's their cultural background, a disability, or even just an idea that goes against the grain, just to get through the day.
And this right here, this brings us to the fundamental question we are all here to answer. This isn't just some text on a slide. This is our collective mission. How do we, together, build a workplace where safety is the foundation that lets every single person's creativity and innovation just flourish?
The answer really begins with understanding this core concept, psychological safety. This is the bedrock, the absolute foundation of the culture we're all building here.
Now let's be super clear. Psychological safety isn't about being nice all the time or avoiding difficult conversations. Actually, it's the exact opposite. It's about creating such a deep level of respect and trust that people feel safe enough to take risks with each other. You know, to challenge an idea, to admit you made a mistake, or to ask that supposedly stupid question. That is the environment where the best ideas come from. That's where high-performing teams are born.
But how do we actually build this? I mean, that sounds great, but what are the steps? Thankfully, it's not just some fuzzy idea. There's a really clear, actionable framework for it, developed by Dr. Timothy Clark.
I love this framework because it shows it's a journey. It all starts with inclusion safety, that basic human need to be accepted for exactly who you are. Once you feel like you belong, you can move to learner safety, where it's okay to ask questions, try new things, and even mess up. From there, you get contributor safety, feeling empowered to use your unique talents to make a real impact. And finally, you reach the top, challenger safety. This is the real game changer. This is where you feel safe enough to say, hey, I think we can do this better. You just can't skip to stage 4. You have to build that solid foundation first.
Now here's where it gets really powerful. We can actually use the technology we already have at our fingertips to actively support each of these stages of safety. We can use our tools to make our workplace more accessible and more inclusive for absolutely everyone. We're not just using technology for productivity. We're using it as a bridge for inclusion. Think about it. Tools like Slack or Teams can create clear, structured ways to communicate, which can be a total game changer for our neurodivergent colleagues. And the AI tools that give us real-time transcriptions in meetings, that is a massive win for accessibility, helping our team members who are deaf or hard of hearing. And our online learning platforms?
They create that perfect environment for learners' safety, letting everyone grow at their own pace without any fear of being judged.
So this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? Let's take a look at a fantastic real-world example of these principles being put into action.
Okay, check this out. The African-Australian Inclusion Program. So the National Australia Bank saw a problem. Really talented, skilled professionals from migrant and minority backgrounds were having a tough time breaking into the corporate world. So what did they do? They didn't just put out a statement. No, they partnered with a social services group to build a structured, paid program that offered not just work experience, but crucial mentorship. This is what intentional workforce development looks like.
And the results? Honestly, they were transformative. An incredible 80% of the people in the program landed jobs in their field with the bank. But here's the real kicker for the business. Years later, half of them were still with the company, building long-term careers. This is undeniable proof that when you intentionally invest in inclusive systems, you don't just change lives, you gain loyal, highly skilled employees who make the whole company stronger.
So this brings us to the most critical part of our conversation today, and it's the fact that this kind of culture isn't built from the top down. It is co-created by each and every one of you in your everyday interactions starting on day one.
When you look at it this way, the choice in front of us as a team is crystal clear. An environment of fear, it's like a tax on everything we do. It kills ideas, it causes delays, and it burns out our best people. But an environment built on psychological safety, that's an accelerant. It fuels morale, it unlocks innovation, and it's the absolute defining trait of every truly high-performing team out there.
So how do we do it? This culture isn't created in one big meeting. It's built in thousands of small, everyday moments. It's the practice of listening to understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's choosing to assume your colleagues mean well. It's getting curious and asking questions. It's offering feedback with respect. And always, always asking yourself, is the way I'm communicating inclusive and accessible for everyone on my team?
So as you start your journey with us, this is the question I want to leave you with. In every meeting you're in, every email you write, every conversation you have influence. How are you going to use that influence to build a more inclusive, more innovative culture with us? We are so incredibly excited to see what you bring. Welcome to the team.